Could Donald Trump, as one of his first acts as president, actually save TikTok? Well, it looks like he might want to do that. He might be trying to do that. So the CEO of TikTok is apparently going to be at Trump's inauguration. Trump is reportedly considering signing an executive order to circumvent the ban. He talked, I mean, he's gonna be on the dais, I believe, like sitting with like his closest guests. Now, obviously the inauguration plan is changing a little bit. It's gonna be indoor, there are gonna be fewer people there. I have a feeling like the CEO is probably still gonna be around. And Trump has been laying the groundwork to potentially do something. So he posted on Truth Social, he bleated, I just spoke to the chairman Xi Jinping of China. The call was a very good one for both China and the USA. It is my expectation that we will solve many problems together and starting immediately. We discussed balancing capital T trade, capital F fentanyl, TikTok, and many other subjects. President Xi and I will do everything possible to make the capital W world more peaceful and safe. Okay, so that sounds, he's not being very specific there, and it almost sounds a little bit presidential, if childish. But he goes on to say, the Supreme Court decision was expected and everyone must respect it, which is interesting. We don't often get Donald Trump saying that the separation of powers is something he has respect for. My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, he continues though, but I must have time to review the situation. Stay tuned. So that's a little bit confusing. What do you mean your decision on TikTok? Well, he made clear what he meant later today, earlier today, I should say, but after that on an interview with CNN. So he said, it ultimately goes up to me. So you're gonna see what I'm going to do. Congress has given me the decision, so I'll be making the decision. And I wanna be very clear. No, they didn't. What are you talking about? Like we're speculating here, and we have been on the panel about the possibility that Donald Trump might tell the DOJ, just don't actually enforce the ban. And if Pam Bondi's the head of the DOJ, she's gonna do literally whatever he wants. So in effect, he would be sort of making a decision that saves TikTok. The law that was passed, overwhelmingly, with almost every Republican in the House voting for it, that was then signed by Donald Trump, that was challenged in court, made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, and then was unanimously upheld, has no component of, well, and now the ball's in your court, Donald. We played at the legislature and the judiciary, but honestly, that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you think about it. Now, he could, in effect, sort of make that decision, but it is worrisome to me that his immediate approach to something like this is, no, at the end of the day, I'm the only one that matters. I'm the only one that will make the call. You guys can play at power or legislature or whatever, or legislation, but it's only me that matters. I find that to be a little bit worrying, even if, like on the substance, I guess I would prefer that he keep the service available. David, I'll start with you. What do you think about what he's communicated about his possible actions?
Well, look, I share your concerns about Donald Trump not having any basic understanding about how laws work and how legislation works. I mean, the answer here is if Donald Trump wants to give a speech and rally the nation around a new law that protects TikTok and rolling back the previous one, he can do that, and Congress can pass a law that reinstates TikTok and allows Chinese ownership or anybody else to own it. That's fine. But as it stands right now, if Donald Trump tries to go through like some executive order to do that, I guarantee there's gonna be somebody out there, it might be a parent who hates TikTok, or somebody's gonna say, I don't like TikTok, I don't like the fact that the Chinese own it. I'm gonna bring a lawsuit that this law is not being forced, and that lawsuit is gonna be successful until TikTok is owned by an American company. So there's a dead end for Donald Trump and the TikTok supporters here, unless he wants to follow the usual requirement of changing things through legislation, which will require Congress, the House, and the Senate to pass something.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to remind people, Trump started all of this, right? He's the one who said that he wanted to ban TikTok in the first place. And it is very uncomfortable that this thing got pushed through. Congress signed off on it, Biden signed off on it, and the Supreme Court signed off on it. So that's 3 separate branches of government, all 3 branches of government. And now Trump is saying, well, I'll decide what I want to do on day 1. I also want to say, just overall, this just feels like more of the uncertainty and instability that we're all used to living with these days. And to be clear, just because we're used to it doesn't mean that we should be comfortable with it. People are struggling to earn livings and to adapt to a world where technology is constantly changing the working landscape. And we're doing it, right? Like we're doing our best. We're burned out, but we're doing it. Millennials have become pros at pivoting in our careers because of the general instability that we've learn to live with. And a big part of the reason why we're having to do this is because we're often employed at the whims of these giant corporations, tech or otherwise. So whether or not you pursued that traditional path and got a 9-to-5 at some big corporation, you were still subject to layoffs. Then those people who said, you know what, I'm gonna try this other thing, I'm gonna work for myself and try to make a living on YouTube or on TikTok or any other social media platform, they were the entrepreneurs. They were the ones who were doing something really brave. It's a lot of work to become an influencer or to earn a living on these platforms, and they were doing it. They spent years building up their platforms, and that's not for nothing. So it does have kind of the same feel as, just getting the rug swept out from underneath you for a lot of those creators. So I do sympathize with what they're going through. I hope things work out for them. We'll see where we end up on January 20th.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only, I guess, real precedent that we have is that there have been other platforms that have not in the same way, but eventually faded away or been killed. Vine was obviously killed. And there's always some creators or people who are sort of native to one platform that are able to jump over to others, but certainly it's not going to be all of them. And so, yeah, I feel terrible for people who've been, possibly doing great work across a variety of different topic areas. And now you're just looking to see, like, will I have my life, in 72 hours? And to be so unsure about that has got to be incredibly stressful. And we'll see. He's giving, I think, all the signals that he intends to do something about it. I agree with you, David. He should just push Congress to pass another law. That's the way this is supposed to work. They could do it. They could do it as their first priority or whatever if they wanted to. And they're all effectively his dogs anyway. He can whip them into doing whatever he wants. The fact that they'll have to contradict something that they just voted for last year, I'm sure for most of them is gonna be totally acceptable, because if they don't do it, then Elon Musk is just gonna primary them out of existence next cycle anyway. And so he could probably do it, but I do wonder, there's like one X factor in this, which would be Mark Zuckerberg, who he's not talking about buying TikTok. He doesn't need to. He just needs it to die. And then he assumes that, if Red Note and all that stuff doesn't end up happening, then a lot of people are gonna switch over to using Instagram and to using Reels, which I can understand why a lot of people would assume that would happen. And the fact that he's cozying so up to Donald Trump and he's throwing money at Donald Trump, it could be that he's hoping to tip the scales and get Donald Trump to not intervene on this. I will just say, and I speak only for myself, if TikTok does die, it's obviously difficult. There's a lot of potential options of where people can go from there. I'm sure some people, by the way, will just dial back their social media use, which, considering all that's gone on in the last few years, is probably not the worst idea. Many people will consider switching over to Reels, and to me, that would have seemed very reasonable like 6 months ago. I will say, the idea of Mark Zuckerberg like getting what he wants after the last couple weeks of what he's been doing is incredibly distasteful to me. So I would hope that if there's any other option for you creators, or even people who are just gonna view this stuff, just do it somewhere other than Reels. Like if nothing else, if all of us have to lose in all of this, I hope that Mark Zuckerberg loses too. Just as like a strong message from the country that the stuff he's done over the past couple weeks is in no way acceptable.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.